We're just 40 days away from WrestleMania, and well, this show didn't really live up to the hype as the card would have let you know it was. What's going on, guys? Boss6 here, back to another video, and today I'm here to do my Raw review from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I will say the crowd was hot. The crowd was really hot for this, but in all honesty, the show was kind of meh. It really didn't have a lot of anything. There was a pretty solid main event. There was a really good opening segment, but overall, show was okay, I guess. There were some pretty bland moments, but all in all, let's get into the show. We have a recap of Roman versus Sammy. Sammy comes out to a massive pop, and this crowd is just eating this alive and then some. He says he feels gratitude, but he also feels he feels gratitude for being the one that would eventually will want to take down Roman Reigns, but he feels guilt because he felt like he let everyone down. He says the story is not over though. And then he says there is a guy that I really want to call out, and it's KO. So Owens comes out, he gets a bit big of a pop. He says, I want you and I to end the bloodline and finally get a revenge because the bloodline's going to be crumbling now. I want us to be the pillars that eventually will take it down. And Owen says, what I did on Saturday wasn't for you, it was for me. Because the punishment that I had to take at the Royal Rumble in front of my family, I did. I helped you because I didn't want your family to, witness you getting destroyed. And this was some great stuff. This was some really great stuff. And he says, if you need help someone taking on the bloodline, ask your buddy Jay. That was good stuff. That was some really good stuff. I do apologize, folks, really quickly, that I'm sorry that the camera quality looks a little gainy or a little grainy. I'm trying something else new on my computer, and yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, I don't have a lot of storage on my phone, even though I don't want to pay for it. I'm trying something different, so I do apologize if the camera quality is very gainy. So without further ado, my technical difficulties out of the way. So KO leaves, we get a bit of a card rundown, then Sammy's on the stage, and all of a sudden Corbin attacks, and then we cut the break. Okay then. Then they have a bit of a brawl. The Corbin gets in the ring. He talks about how he was the last person to pin Reigns, which was 3 years ago, which is true. And he basically calls Sammy a failure. Then Sammy goes to the ring. Then they have a match. I understand why they did this match because I think last week Corbin got interrupted by Sammy and all that stuff. Match was fine. I just don't really care about Corbin. The crowd was into it though. In the end, Haluva kick. Sammy wins, and there you go. Then we get a recap of the mixed tag match, which again, I know some people didn't enjoy it. They thought it sucked. I personally didn't mind it. I thought it was entertaining for what it was. Then we get a Byron interview with Dominic and Rhea. Talk about what Charlotte, and they briefly talk about what happened in the Elimination Chamber. And Rhea did some really good stuff here. She says the reason why Charlotte's hanging on to what happened 3 years ago when she beat Rhea at Mania 36 is because she refused to believe that I'm the best woman in the roster. She's not technically wrong if you think about it. Well, her, Becky, and Bayley, there's some competition there, but Rhea is arguably the best in the women's division at this point. And there you go. They say, Dominic says, well, hey, my dad's having a match on Friday. How about we have a little tag along and we'll see what happens there? Okay, then. We get a recapture of the chamber match for the U.S. title, then a bit of a press conference, and Theory says, well, I'm going to have an open challenge tomorrow. And then Edge says, I don't have a lot of time left, but I would like to have a championship match, and I just want to kick in Austin Theory's teeth in and kick his stupid face. So, Theory and Kathy Kelly, Jesus, Lord have mercy. They're backstage, talk about the chamber, and Theory's upset that I went to one of the most dangerous structures in WWE, and yet my name is not being headlined. And he talks about Cena, and Cena's returning in 2 weeks, and he says, Cena's getting a big react. Cena's getting a headline next week. How come I'm not? They're obviously going to have Cena take on Theory at Mania. I don't think it's going to be for the U.S. title because he really doesn't need that. But they're trying something at least, even though I really don't care about it. So then Ollie took on Ziggler in a match that certainly happened. Look, they're just making Ollie a sore loser for presumably no reason, and Dolph is just there to take the pin like he has been for the past 5 years. And there was a cool famous counter to a crucifix pin, 1, 2, 3, and Ollie wins. So now is he going to be bragging about that I finally got a win? Okay. Kathy's backstage. More Kathy Kelly on my television, please. Miz and Maurice are making love, and Kathy says that Miz is currently preoccupied at the moment. That was funny. Maurice gives Miz a gift, apparently an anniversary gift, and Kathy is trying to interview what happened with Seth and Logan Paul, and that Seth and Miz are having a match tonight. What's in the envelope? I don't know, where we're going to see what happens next week. Is it that Maurice is having another child? Maybe. I don't know. Don't care. Then we get to one of the strangest and probably one of the dumbest segments I have ever seen featuring these two men. And considering one of them, that's saying a lot. So Cody comes down, and before he says anything, Heyman appears on screen in a neck brace, which was hilarious. And he does his typical shtick about how, you won't beat Roman. And he says, what if you do beat Roman for the titles? And he says, Roman has special counseling, but you don't. And then he goes on this random ass Steiner math promo, basically talking about how many days Roman has held the title, how many days in a row Roman has been. And then he talks about Dustin, and he talks about Dusty. And he says, when Dusty was on the road, he wasn't home, but when he is home, he never is. Okay, weird, but then Heyman talks about Roman sleeping with Cody's wife, Brandy, and he says, Roman's a married man, but I'm not. What in the hell was this? This is one of the wackiest ass promos that Heyman has ever cut. And Heyman's really damn good with his promos. This was by far one of the strangest and one of the stupidest. This was something out of Vince. This had to have been a Vince rib. There's no way in hell Triple H green like this. I understand what they were trying to do because of all the sacrifices you gotta make because you're leaving your family and home and all that stuff. But it feels so contrived and feels so stupid because if Cody wins, then Heyman's gonna sleep with Brady. I'm thinking way too far. I'm thinking way too much into this. This is so stupid. This was a very, very, very dumb, very bad segment. And then Cody's trying to get all emotional about it. And he says, Roman, you're good at this, Roman. And then he says, maybe we should meet up one day. And he says, at Mania, I'm going to finish my story. Oh my good lord in hell. I don't know what this was. I felt like I was on an acid trip during this. But this was so stupid. This was stupid. If you guys like this, more power to you. But I thought this was dumb. So we get a recap of the Women's Chamber. Then Asuka comes out. And then we get to a Mania Goes Hollywood commercial where Seth is dressed up as a Joker. And then Becky Lynch dressed up as Batman and does her best, like, Christian Bale voice in some ways. It was so funny. I do not know why. It was so dumb, but I loved it. It was beautiful. Seth really played the role well, I will say. Becky being, like, trying to be all, like, I am Batman. I am Batman. I have a man cave. That was so. They tried so hard with it. It was honestly beautiful. I loved it. I don't care what anyone says. I loved it. So, anyways, Asuka took on Nikki Cross. Bianca comes down. We get 2 minutes into the match where we immediately go to break. They are really bad at timing their breaks, as I'm noticing. It's really starting to take away from the matches, in all honesty, because there were so many weird commercial breaks at really random points of the match, or of the show in general, that it really takes away from the match, and that really sucks. The women tried. I felt like the crowd didn't care, though. There was a cool second rope DDT, but a kick out. There was a Samoan driver, but a kick out. Eventually, Asuka got on the armbar, and there you go, Asuka wins. Bianca gets in the ring. Bianca does, lifts up her title. Then they both point at the Mania sign. And then Asuka kind of spits up blue Listerine. I understand it was supposed to be blue mist, but it looked like she was drinking, like that Lysol, like, toilet bowl, not cleaner, but that toilet bowl blue stuff that you put in. It was so weird. I love Oscar, don't get me wrong, but I hope to God they ain't going the supernatural route, because I saw that on Twitter and I immediately about pissed myself. So Kathy and Carmella backstage, and Carmella's talking about how Oscar beat her, and she says, "I won a match against Oscar. That Mania moment should have been mine. Have fun dying next week, Carmella." All of a sudden, Seth shows up, talk about Logan Paul, all that stuff. I'm not interested to see that match, in all honesty. But you recap Bobby versus Brock. Oh, Lord in hell. This is when the show was starting to go off the rails, if it wasn't enough already. MVP is backstage, and he talks about what Brock did to Bobby, and then almost shows up. And an MVP says almost wants to offer you a match at Mania. Is this a punishment for Brock because he didn't want to do a match with Bray? I hope it's a swerve, in all honesty, and it's actually Bobby versus Brock 3 and maybe a no holds barred match. Do not have Brock versus Omos. Please don't do that match. That match will be terrible. Even people are starting to bash it, in all honesty. Again, this felt like a Vince show in some ways. So Miz versus Rollins happened. Good match as expected. But towards the end, couple of stops. There you go. Rollins wins by a referee stoppage. There was more to the match, I understand, but again, good match as always. These two always had good chemistry no matter what. So Carmella and Pierce are backstage, and Carmella wants to have a match with Pierce. Pierce says it's official. The Chelsea Green calls him and says, "Well, it was supposed to be Ottawa, Canada, but I was in Ottawa, Illinois." And she says that the board of directors is stupid, all that stuff, yada yada. She wants a match. And Peter's like, "Well, we're going to be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa next week. You'll have a match next week." And then she goes on a bit of a tangent. And there you go. And Pierce is like, "Oh, sorry, connection's bad," and the hunt hangs up on her. I know a lot of people don't really like it. I personally don't mind it. I think it's funny, in all honesty. Just Pierce getting pissed off is hilarious. The Alpha Academy are posing in a mirror, and all of a sudden Maxine shows up. Okay. Ding Dong hello with damage control, and how does it feel to be the greatest women's tag team champions of all time? Raise your hand if you got the tag team titles even existed, in all honesty, because they have not defended it in months. Granted, Dakota Kai is hurt, but still. The Becky shows up. She talks about the tag titles. And she's like, those titles are a little bit dusty. It looks like they have like cobwebs and spiders on them. And then Becky wants the tag titles. And then, God, Bailey. Bailey says, "Who's your partner? Rue?" That was funny because Becky Lynch's kid. That was pretty funny. All of a sudden, Lita shows up. And she says, "How about we have a title match?" And, after denying it, all that stuff. And she's like, "Well, for someone that, for a team that likes to say they like to defend their titles," and, Bailey's like, "Well, you guys ain't worthy of it." And they list off all their accolades. And Lee's like, that's a pretty valid point there. And, I think they're scared. I don't think they want to accept our challenge. And then they accept it anyway. And then Becky and Lita grab the titles and shove it back to Io and Dakota. Io looked very distracting, I will say. So we're having that match next week. Okay. So, where are we at? Okay, Byron with Candace backstage and talking about what's going on with Johnny. Then she sees Nikki. She's asking, why are you following me? And Nikki whispers something and leaves. Then Candace says Nikki has no friends anymore. Okay. I have no idea where this is going, and I really haven't given a chance to care. She says Johnny is going to be back next week or sooner or something like that. Gable with Otis took on Bronson Reed. Maxine showed up at ringside. The match wasn't bad. I just really don't have it. I just don't have any reason to care about Gable. This whole Otis might join Maximum Male Models thing's stupid. There was a cool German suplex to Reed at one point that was really cool. Otis is reading a business card, and then Reed hits the tsunami and he wins. Okay. Then Elias is in the ring, and he says, "Rick Boogs, take notes. You know what's a greater talent like me?" Then Lashley comes down. Then he basically destroys Elias. He talks about what happens on Sunday, or what happened Saturday actually, and he says nobody gets out of the Hurt Lock, and I won't be disrespected. Basically it there. I don't know if they're going to be doing with Lashley. Don't put him in a feud with Bray. They're going to put him in a feud with Bray. Damn it. Byron and Edge are backstage. Edge cuts a pretty damn good promo as usual. He talks about youth and all that stuff, and he talks about how he hasn't had a title match in years, and he hasn't held a title in years. And he says he knows that his window of opportunity is closing. That's why he's got to take it whenever the window is still open. And he said he just wanted to kick Theory's head in and all that stuff. And he said he had his first ever match, or I think his second ever match in 1997 in this town. So there you go. Some really good stuff. So Theory versus Edge for the U.S. title. I did like how Kevin Patrick stated that this is the first time since 01 that Edge challenged for a U.S. title. So that was good. That was some good history. It was a fine match. It was one of Theory's better matches and all that stuff. There was a crossface at one point because a Canadian man using a crossface, a Canadian family man using a crossface never turned out bad. Moving on. So yeah, there you go. Theory tried to cheat at one point. We get execution, but a kick out. Edge goes for the spear. Balor shows up, kick the Edge, A-Town down. Theory wins. Balor attacks, three coup de grace, and there you go. That's about it. So overall, the show was okay. It was fine, I guess. It really wasn't that great of a show. I thought it was just okay at best. So, thank you guys for watching this video. What did you guys think about Raw? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, tap that big red subscribe button, and tap the bell for more notifications so when I upload, you will be notified. And most importantly, join the herd. I'll talk to you guys next video. Peace out.